being 9:01, I call the Board of Commissioners to order at this point. Levesque, Vec, you want to call your group together, please?
Yeah, we call the cab to order, cab meeting to order.
All right, very good. All right, so we have 3 members of the board present. I believe it's 4 members of the CAB.
Yeah.
So,
Dave is joining now as well. Apologies still.
okay, well, all right. I'll wait for Dave to come on. Okay, there he is. You're late, Dave, you know?
1 minute.
We'll have to dock your pay.
Morning, everybody.
Okay.
Morning.
Morning.
All right, let me read the code of conduct. The RMLD Board of Commissioners recognizes the importance of hearing public comment at the discretion of the chair on items on the official agenda. Once recognized by the chair, all persons addressing the board shall state their name and address prior to speaking. It is the role of the chair to maintain order in all public comment or ensuing discussion. I don't believe we have any public comment. And so why don't we go right to the power supply? Greg, you're going to give us a setup and then we go to Bill, or how?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think you guys saw in my email last week. We obviously continuously work on the power supply. There's an emphasis on adding solar and wind to our portfolio. We've done a fair amount of wind over the past 8 months. There's a couple more ones coming down the road. But the solar ones they've been more challenging to actually get completed. Bob just texted he's joining here in a second, Coulter. This particular one is an extension of what's called Gravel Pit 3. Actually, it's Gravel Pit 3 and 4. It is a project that had some challenges. Desiree or D.E. Shaw is the developer. They are well established. We've done projects with them before. And I'll let Bill give a little more details of the project, but this is an extension that they were able to acquire some additional land adjacent to it. And so they're adding an additional 30 megawatts to an existing field that's about 120 megawatts. And interesting to note, there's a group of MLPs that are part of the project. And then actually 50 of that group is some of the IOUs, Eversource and Grid. Are part of the other group, so it's a pretty big project. So that's the background. I'll let Bill give a little more details on it. It's something we've been working on. So, and it's part of an E&E. E&E has been organizing this one because they organized the Gravel Pit 3. We originally thought that this was just going to be an extension of Gravel Pit 3, but all said and done, it ended up being written as a totally separate contract, Gravel Pit 5. Bill, I'll turn it over to you for more details.
Okay. Thanks, Greg. So Gravel Pit 5, this is the phase where we're seeking approval for today. It's located in East Windsor, Connecticut, so just north and east of Hartford. The supply is 30 megawatts, as Greg said, and this is in addition to 120 megawatts that's under construction, developed by D.E. Shaw. We expect it to be commissioned in 2025. And our existing share of Gravel Pit 3 is 60% of the output. This is we have approximately 10,000 megawatt hours in this Gravel Pit 5 offer. So when it's about 10,000 megawatt hours per year, that's 1% of our expected load in 2025. So not a big share. We are taking 22% of the project expansion output, so 22% of the 30 megawatts. And the reason, the energy, the 10,000 megawatt hours is so low is just because of the lower capacity factors of solar plants. It is a long-term contract. It goes for 25 years, which is good. It'll fall off right when we're supposed to be completely net zero. So it will be good to have that bridge us to that point. It will generate class 1 certificates, which are renewable and non-carbon. We will sell those certificates until we need them to comply with our compliance policy. So they'll help keep rates low until we need them in order to comply with the with the internal policy, policy 30. The price is slightly higher than our 2025 average, but the benefit is there's no escalation on the price, so it will become more and more affordable over the 25-year term. We'll be paying the same price in year 24 as we are in year 1. So we feel like there's a benefit to that. Then I'll go to the next slide, the last slide. So there's just to show how it fits in with the overall portfolio. Here we are, in 2023. Last year, solar was 1% of our portfolio, and that's basically from the 3 community solar installations we have in our service territory. And as you can see, along with Gravel Pit 3 and Gravel Pit 5, we will be up to 11% of solar in our 2026 portfolio. You can see they do contribute a significant amount over the course of time. You can see, if you haven't seen this chart before, this is the predicted load growth based on the electrification drivers in the territory. So we will need to meet this supply going forward, and that's why we're actively pursuing so many non-carbon resources, is that so we can begin to fill in the gap going out. Again, this is an important part of the overall strategy, and will help us meet the 2050 net zero goal and the intermediate 2030 and 2040 steps. And with that, I'll see if there are any questions.
I'm sorry, just quick question, Bill, is this chart reflecting current contracts or projections too? Because you're not, is this?
Yeah, this is current contract. So we model in every contract that we have. So
okay,
yeah, and our goal is to obviously be strategic in how we're contracting for things. So when we do see things that are relatively good price, we try to lock them in over the long term, so we can we can fill in the hash area here.
Yep.
Yeah. So Bill, question. So this will be effectively 150 megawatt capacity project, right?
Well,
so out of that,
yeah.
So it's like 120, which will be done by 2024, and then 30 in 2025. Is that correct?
The intent is to have the entire project built out, I think, by 2025.
Okay. Yeah. So 150 megawatts by 2025. Out of that 150 megawatts, how much are we getting? Because you talked about fractions, but like out of that 150 megawatts, how much are we getting?
So we have so I have to do the math in my head, public math, I guess.
All right, but, I've got that for you.
The 50 megawatts, right? 16% of the 50 megawatts.
It's about 14 megawatts net.
14 megawatts. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're getting 14 megawatts net out of that 150 megawatts.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's good. And this project is, like you're saying, E&E brought it to us, right? So I'm just curious, in the future, like, are brokers involved in deals like this, or is it all E&E? And do brokers take fees? So just want to understand how, because if these deals are, if such opportunities are valuable, how are these deals brought to our attention?
Yeah, so Vivek, I can handle that one. So we typically don't work through brokers. We're pretty, as you know, we're pretty active in terms of uncovering opportunities. Some opportunities, and in parallel, E&E, part of their role and charter is to uncover and uncover opportunities. They're not a developer, obviously.
Yeah.
This is one. So D.E. Shaw, Desri, they've been working with E&E for, I don't know, 10, 15 years. So this was another project that they were developing. So that's how E&E happened to be in this one.
Okay. Yeah,
so
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have any brokers yet.
Yeah, no. And so as a policy matter, we don't pay brokers fees, right? So,
we haven't yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go to Marlena, and then we'll go to Pam after that. Okay. So Marlena, I believe you're up.
Bill.
Your hand, Vivek. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said that we will generate Connecticut Class 1 certificates, and if you could fine tune this part of the sentence for me, but we will sell them until we have to meet our requirements. I didn't quite get that
Yeah.
quote or
So
understand.
sure. Understood. So our strategy is to, the hard goal that we need to meet, the first hard goal we need to meet is in 2030. And in 2030, 50% of our portfolio needs to be, by law, needs to be non-carbon. Obviously by the chart we're clearly beyond that. So we do have excess RECs. We do not need to retire them by 2050. And then also from now until 2030, what the board has agreed to is that we will retire 3% more of our RECs each year until we are at 50% in 2050. So this year in 2023, we are retiring 29% of all of our attributes. And then next year we will go to 32%. And the idea is each year raise it by 3%. And what this does is it does two things. One, it helps us give us a ramp to compliance, and we could comply today if we wanted to. But by selling some of the RECs, and particularly the more valuable RECs, we're able to make that because if we were to expose the rates to full compliance now, if we were to retire all the RECs, we just have to increase rates. So this is our way of meeting our goal of being reliable, low cost, and non-carbon together. So that's the strategy going forward, is that we comply slowly and ramp up so there's not a price shock.
And that's terrific. And I understand the strategy of having a formula of 3% a year that gets us to you have a whole plan. I get that.
Yeah.
But we're kind of in a great position to go above and beyond the minimum. And we actually have, I think, some room to play with our rates. So I just wonder if there's any room for a strategy that lets us go beyond the minimum and not retire so many and only do the 3%, to do better.
Yeah, no, understood. And the way I look at it is by contracting with assets like this, we are enabling the energy transition. So just by contracting with them and getting them started. So I think we're providing an important service to the energy transition by doing that. So it's not like we're not doing anything. It's just that we're just trying to make it a little less painful to make the transition for everybody. But you may bring up a very good point. And I think it's worth further discussion if the board supports that.
I think what we'll do, commissioners and board members, is we'll make a note. You're right. The net cost of power supply, which is a pass through, has been relatively low this year for a variety of reasons. And so we'll do a little of analysis to maybe accelerate our adoption. I know that Phil had brought this up last year that we probably should go back and revisit it. So I'll make a note that we present something in terms of maybe accelerating that 3%, which is what I think you're saying, Marlena.
Yes.
Yep. So maybe we'll look at that. I think over the next couple of years, it might be easier, but we're going to look, 26 to 29. We'll put together a proposal in terms of what would allow us to accelerate. So that's a great suggestion. And we'll probably do it realistically in the December meeting. If we can fit into November, we will, but realistically, we'll probably do it in December, if that sounds okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right, we go to Pam, and then we'll go to Bob after that. Okay.
Morning, everyone. So you mentioned the rates are slightly higher than the current market rates, or the market rates that you expect in 2025. At what point do you expect that we will start to be paying less than market rate? And have you done a calculation on the kind of the net impact or savings impact in total from the fixed rate?
Yeah, it is hard. We have not done the sensitivity around what the inflation on the the overall energy markets will be. So basically, we're comparing it to our mixed portfolio, and of course, we have a lot of low cost nuclear in that portfolio, so it helps to offset some of the higher cost renewables. But no, I can do that analysis though. We'll take a look, and I think that probably fits in well with Marlena's request for a look at increasing the accelerating our compliance target. So I'll take that as an action to do some scenario modeling for different price scenarios.
If I can add to that, just so a year and a half ago, at a question Vivek had, we actually did some analysis of net cost in terms of retiring versus not retiring certificates, or let me say differently, selling versus not selling certificates. If we don't sell them, we by definition are retiring them. So we'll probably update that analysis. But Pam, to answer your question, given that this is a fixed rate program and looking, we're trying to update the cost of energy going forward. We'll do the analysis, but realistically, it's probably before 2030 when we cross over that point.
Okay. And do you have a sense of just when we start, how much higher? I'm just curious on what is the fixed rate that we're agreeing to versus what we expect the market rate to show in 25.
You mean where that number is relative to the current portfolio?
Yeah.
So relative to the solar portfolio, it's probably 10% higher. Relative to the total contracted portfolio, it is about 70% higher. And as Bill mentioned, one of the things, we've been around for a long time, so we have some long contracts, particularly on the nuclear side, which are in single digits. And so that tends to help bring the average down. Our overall average, which is a public number, the total fully weighted is about 10 cents a kilowatt hour, of which just over 40 cents a 4 tenths. So $100 a megawatt hour, or 4 cents a kilowatt hour, is the total full burden rate, just under that this year. And then of that, energy is about just 4.2% or 4.2 cents per kilowatt hour. The rest is capacity transmission and certificate retirements.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, so we go to Bob. I asked if you answered, the question, please lower your hand. Marlena, I believe your hand is still up. If you please lower it. Thank you. We go to Bob, and then we go to Ken. Then we come back to Marlena. Okay?
Thank you, Phil.
Dave. Yeah, Dave after Ken. Bob,
All right.
Just a quick point. I believe you guys do chase down deals, and when they come up, I know you guys execute on deals as they come in. So I do think we need to revisit using brokers, because you just don't know what's out there. You need to buy in to solar fields where they are. You don't always know everything, right? None of us do. So I think that in today's market, to get capacity out of a deal, to hunt for those deals or to know where they are, I think is something that if we did have something in place that stopped us from using a broker, I believe we should not have that. Take those bumpers off and entertain that. I didn't realize we did not use a broker. I thought if we
historically have not. There's no formal policy in place, but we historically have not. But I think as you probably gathered, and having been with us on power supply for quite some time, solar projects are the hardest ones to get. Because there was a limited number in the hydros, and we moved on those, and we're in good shape. Wind is its own craziness, depending on what happens with the offshore stuff. We're still pursuing, we've got stuff in Maine, as you know, and we've got stuff in Massachusetts. We've got a portfolio of wind already. We got to keep adding to that. Solar is the more challenging one. We've got a lot of connections in the marketplace. We don't have a formal policy that says we can't use brokers. We just haven't. So I think, we're pretty, we haven't actually proactively gone after brokers, but people know that we're looking for solar, and we're actually both within territory and outside of territory we're looking at actually developing projects, which we'll talk about more in the next several months.
And just one more comment, Phil, but I have a hard stop at 9:30, but I am in favor of this. So if there is a quorum, I don't think I'm needed for a quorum vote, but favor of this contract.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Bob. Ken, I believe you're up. Okay.
Yeah, just a quick question, and I hope I didn't miss it when Pam was asking her question about how this cost compares to the portfolio. But how does it compare to your original contract with this supplier?
It is 24% higher.
Okay, and how's that? What's the cause of that, or the reason for that increase? Is that just market, or is it?
It's access to panels specifically. They did a lot of cost reduction relative to this is adjacent to the existing, same tie point, same connection. You know, a couple of years back, it's not cleared out yet, but panel availability of panels has been a key issue, and in fact, it's caused several projects, bigger projects, to cancel. So panel availability and panel cost is the primary driver, and of course, transmission gear, etc. But in a solar project, the panels are the biggest piece.
Yeah, other than the panel cost, you would think their marginal costs would be less for this addition, given that you said it's adjacent to the existing construction.
Yes, sir, and same connection point. There are definitely incremental costs tied to them. Yeah, so we've through E&E we pushed back pretty aggressively in terms of pricing, but that number is a good price in today's market.
Okay, was the original contract a fixed cost over the term?
I have to double check that. That was that's 3 years ago. I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it is, because solar ones tend to be, but I'm not 100% sure, Ken.
Okay. And I was doing a little, I went on website to see a little bit about this project, saw that it's getting some community pushback too, due to noise concerns from the site. That was something I was not aware was an issue with solar fields.
Yeah, so one of the things that you'll see in the motion is, you know, the environmental due diligence. Noise would be a piece of that.
Okay. So this is not permitted yet?
It is permitted.
Okay.
This one is permitted.
So what's the purpose of the due diligence then?
We have an internal policy to do our due diligence.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. It tied primarily to the hydros. The hydros were a little bit more sensitive.
Okay.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay. Go to Bob. Go to Dave.
Yeah, hi all. Thanks very much for bringing this forward. My question is a broader one, because I've always been curious, and it comes up again today. I know we sell RECs, but I've never really fully understood what our process is for doing that, because the actual action of selling them is never anything that comes before the board, unless somebody correct me if I'm wrong. We're told that it happens, but I would like to see it, and if my colleagues agree, sort of an explanation, a written explanation of how this occurs. So we buy them for X amount, we hold them, then we decide to sell some or all of them. So how does that happen? How does it relate to the price we paid? And how is that market price set? Who sets it? And in particular, who is buying the RECs that we sell? So I don't think any of this ever really comes up. And perhaps more formally at the meeting on the 28th, I believe. Wait, we have a meeting on the 28th, correct?
Yeah, we do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe we could render this into a motion to request, you know, a report, maybe with some history to it, on how this occurs and what just the pieces that I laid out, what we paid, how they got sold, what they sold for, and what was the benchmark for the selling price.
Yeah, Dave, we'll lay that out in more detail. We have historically been doing quarterly reports in terms of the value and the magnitude of them. The actual price in terms of sale is driven by market. There's an active market. And then in terms of what the purchase price are, those are tied to, so all of our certificates are tied to the contracts. So like in this particular case, the price that we're paying for the energy and certificates is one total price.
Right.
So they don't, you know, we'll say, hey, today's value of a class 1 certificate is $39. So if we wanted to, we could say, hey, the price of energy is X. But so two things. We historically have only purchased certificates with energy. We've never purchased, we don't, I won't say ever, but over the past 3 years, we've never purchased certificates outside. And if we did, we'd purchase them on the open market like anybody else would. So that we'll give them more detail, but that's the big picture in terms of how we think about it. And then, the biggest purchasers, there are some MLPs that actually buy on the open market and retire. But the majority of the volume of these certificates that get sold or go to the IOUs because they've got a different set of compliance obligations that they have to meet.
Meaning they've historically had a much tighter set of requirements.
Historically, exactly right. Much tighter historically. Yep.
So you're saying other MLPs have bought Reading Municipal Lights RECs
indirectly? Yes.
So which ones?
The ones that are labeled more green typically.
Okay. Well, that would be just interesting to know more about.
Okay.
And so
Yep. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, our strategies, as Bill, on that chart that Bill has up, almost all of those have certificates tied to them. Not every contract, because early on it wasn't a big deal, and some of those were rolling off. But we're in a very, back to Marlena's question, and we'll put that together for December. Yeah, we're in a unique position to be able to have a little more flexibility in terms of what we retire versus what we sell.
I understand. Just a very quick follow-up. What I've learned here is that when we enter into the contracts, the rec versus the power is not disambiguated. It's one number. So the relevant thing would be when we sold the recs, what we sold them for, how that was done, and how that was benchmarked. Right? Is that correct?
Yeah, and the bench. I mean, we'll do it, but it'll be the same thing I'm going to tell you right now. It's what the market price is at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, and just Class 1 certificate over the past 2 years, it's ranged anywhere from $33 to $40, and whatever the quarter is and what the volume is, just as our point of reference. But it's set by there's a big market out there trading recs, certificates we call them, not recs.
All right. The one last quick follow up is who is the determiner of market rate, as you say? Where does that number come from? Is there a Yeah, there's a Treasury, interest rate equivalent of this is the Fed funds rate, or what is the market rate of REC?
It's like the wholesale part of it's kind of like wholesale power. Right, there's a couple of groups that publish here's today's prices, and they're the ones that do most of the brokering and trading. So there's a group called Martex. We've been subscribing to them for 10 years. That's our primary source, and then that's basically how the price is set. It's a public entity.
Okay.
And we can share that with you too. We have a subscription to it, and yeah, no problem.
Yeah, it seems like this is part of power supply agreements that I know when we enter into them or when we're discussing them, it's in an executive session. But once they're done and once rec sales are done, I feel like that should be something that's part of the public record.
And that's the quarterly reports we put out. So you're right, but yeah.
But more thoroughly, like who? But yeah, okay, I'll leave it.
Yeah, we probably won't say who bought them because we don't always know that. But we certainly, here's the volume and here's the dollars that came in. That's we do that quarterly. So we'll be more clear. No problem.
Okay, let's go to Jason.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on the Marlena's thing about being more aggressive on retiring. I do believe Reading has a couple different options for people to opt in to have Reading buy more certificates and retire more certificates than what we're planning to do or what our policy says we're going to do. And I feel like right now that would be a good thing to keep doing as opposed to forcing everybody to pay more, especially with the current economic situation with inflation and all that, and trying to keep the rates low, but also being environmentally conscious, I think is a good thing. And Reading does offer opportunities for people who want to spend more and retire more and be more environmentally conservative. They can do that. So I just want to point that out, that option is already there and Reading is already doing it. So I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Yeah, that our renewable choice program is, we promote that whenever we can. And what we do with that, people pay a little extra into their bill, and we use that money to offset the recs that we retire. So we can retire some additional recs with that fund.
Right, and with today's with the economic situation of today, where people's salaries are not necessarily keeping up with inflation, I think we should try to maintain that for now until things change a little bit, because there's a lot of different economic groups within our territory, and I think we ought to keep in mind that not everybody is able to do that. Just my 2 cents.
Okay. Marlena, you're next.
I appreciate all of and agree with Jason's points. Just that I think, and this isn't really another conversation for another day, but that RMLD is uniquely positioned to do better than the competition. Of many other MLPs and IOUs are not in the unique position that we're in. And with regards to renewable choice, yes, we've been participating for, I think, over a year now at whatever the highest level was, but I think it's only about 1% participation of our ratepayers are in it. So yes, all for the future to revisit. Thank you, Jason.
Okay, George, you're up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I also have to jump into another meeting. I didn't know if there was something that we were looking to make a motion on or something during this Zoom call. So I know a few other people have to move. So
Yeah, so there are two motions that are on the agenda, one for the CAB, one for the commission after the CAB's motion. Just quickly, for transparency purposes, can we explain why we had this meeting outside of our normal meeting schedule? Just so for transparency.
Yes. So at the end of the day, the contract came in earlier than we expected. And so they're trying to get all the paperwork done so they can get panels ordered, et cetera. So it's an administrative issue between DESRI, E&E, and then obviously we are the participant. The contract will be a direct contract like everybody else's with DESRI being DE Shaw. So the contract took a little bit longer to put together. And I shouldn't say that they accelerated it. They're trying to get panel orders done. So they've asked us to accelerate it. So that's why we're here. My apologies.
Okay. All right, very good. Are there any further comments or questions? If not, I think the CAB motion is now in order. Vivek, do you have the motion there, Vivek?
Yeah. So, George, can you?
Do you want me to read it?
Okay, please.
Okay,
yeah,
I'll read it. Move that the Citizen Advisory Board recommend that the Board of Commissioners vote to accept the General Manager's recommendation to contract with DE Shaw for a portion of energy and attributes, including Class 1 certificates from a to-be-built 30 MW expansion to the currently contracted 120 MW gravel pit 3/4 solar project in Central Connecticut, including environmental due diligence.
I will make that motion as read.
Okay.
Okay, I second.
Okay. Yep.
So roll call vote required.
Yeah, roll call vote required.
George Hooper, aye.
Ken Welter, aye.
Dennis Kelly, aye.
Yeah, Dennis. Okay, and then Vivek, you're
Yeah,
aye.
yeah, Vivek Soni, aye.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Thank you. So that motion carries 4-0. I got that right? 4-0.
Yeah, Jason dropped out. Yeah.
Okay.
I
So
think it's 5-0. We have
Oh, sorry, it should be 5-0. Jason's here. 5-0.
5-0. Okay.
5-0. Sorry. Yeah.
We got 5 there. Okay, the commission motion should be moved to the Board of Commissioners on the recommendation of the Citizen Advisory Board. Vote to accept the General Manager's recommendation to contract DE Shaw for a portion of energy and attributes, including Class 1 certificates from a to-be-built 30 MW expansion to the currently contracted 120 MW gravel pit 3/4 solar project in Central Connecticut, including environmental due diligence. Dave, you make that motion?
I did. Yes, I made it, or I seconded it. You would like me to read that, or?
No, I read it. You just
Consider that I read it. Yep.
Dave made the motion.
And I need a second.
Second.
Okay, so moving and seconded. It's roll call vote. So I think we go seniority. I remember correctly. So Mr. Talbot.
Boy, I guess I'll say aye.
Okay. Marlena,
Aye.
Pam,
Aye.
Ms. Pacino, aye. Okay, and I believe Mr. Coulter, let the record show that Mr. Coulter had to get off the call and, but he was in favor of the motion. Okay? All right. With that, Vivek, I think we need to make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah. So
I move that the Citizens Advisory Board adjourn to motion to adjourn regular session.
okay, yeah, I second. Okay.
Okay. You got a roll call vote, Vivek?
Okay. Yeah. So,
And
George.
and Walter, aye.
George Hooper, aye.
Dennis Kelly, aye. Jason Small, aye.
Vivek Soni, aye.
Okay. Mr. Talbot moves that the Board of Commissioners adjourn regular session.
Yes, I did.
Seconded?
Second.
Been seconded. We'll roll call vote again. Mr. Talbot,
Aye.
Marlena,
Aye.
Pam?
Aye.
Aye. We are now adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good day.
Okay, very good.
Thanks, Will.